Alrighty guys, a very warm welcome to the video. So we all know triathlon and Ironman racing has this preconception that it is far from a cheap sport, and that is true even when doing it on a budget. However, in this video, I'm going to explain to you how you can have a full high-performance triathlon setup for under $5,000. This is Australian. We can convert that to US, it's going to be less, and to other currencies, it may be more or less. This is Australian dollars, under 5,000 Australian dollars for a very high-performance triathlon setup. All of the equipment here is brand new. This is all found via various websites, Bike Exchange here in Australia, all brand new equipment. Wiggle, online website for triathlon and running, cycling, swimming, all brand new and whatnot. So the reason why I advocate, why I would suggest that anyone new to triathlon is safest just to go with brand new equipment is because for things like the bike, for example, buying secondhand is definitely possible and you can do it a lot cheaper if you do so. However, it's always a risk that you take. And one thing you don't want to compromise on is safety. You don't know how much wear there is in the headset. You don't know all of the, pressure points in the frames, etc. You just, to be as safe as possible, go with new equipment. So brand new equipment, less than $5,000. The first thing we're going to do is with a triathlon suit. So this is from Wiggle. This is a DHB Arion short sleeve triathlon suit, a long course triathlon suit. It has pockets in the back, all that you need. You could spend hundreds of dollars, like way more than this on a triathlon suit. However, this is going to get you everything you need, basically. You can have preferences to different brands, of course, go with whatever you like. However, you can definitely do it on the cheap. $122 for a DHB short sleeve long course triathlon suit. And again, for some context for this video, this is all for less than $5,000, and it will put you with some, or like give you some of the best quality equipment there is, not the highest tier equipment there is, however. But why I think this is so important is because if you were to spend 100% more, if you were to spend $10,000 or 200% more and spend $15,000, for example, which many people do, the net benefit that will yield will be very, very small in terms of your overall time. Obviously, the more you can invest in a high quality tri suit, the more aerodynamics you can have on the bike, etc. But the overall difference will be quite negligible, particularly for a beginner or for an entry level. So here we go, tri suit for number one, $122. All right, so that's the tri-suit covered. Now moving on to the swim. So for the swim, you're going to need a decent wetsuit for most triathlon events. And you can pick one up. This is off Wiggle, a DHB Hydron Wetsuit 2.0. This is $141, so not too bad. You're also going to need some open water swimming goggles. These are the DHB Hydron goggles, only $17. So goggles and a wetsuit, all for less than $160 right there. Going beyond this, of course, yeah, you can get some high quality stuff, but this is brand new. It's going to do you quite well as an entry level, and it's really not going to limit your performance in any capacity. So now moving on to the bike, like I said at the beginning of the video, quality is something you don't want to compromise on here, particularly with regard and with 100% with regard to safety, because again, you can go buy a secondhand bike. If you know what you're looking for, you can do it safe enough. However, going with a brand new bike just ensures you peace of mind that, the headset's fully intact, nothing's compromised, you're not going to have a breakage, or you're unlikely to have anything kind of snapping on your braking and really putting your health and safety at risk. So for the bike, I think that the best quality bikes out there are the Giant Trinity Pro. Again, I have no affiliation with any of these brands, but the Giants do have a good quality bike for what they offer. Giant Trinity Pro 2, I believe this is an Ultegra group set. That's all you need, $3,999. Again, this is just a rim brake bike. I don't believe you really need disc brakes anyway for a triathlon bike. A bit controversial, some people love the discs, but nonetheless, this is going to get you through well enough. An upgrade here would be going for a more race wheel setup, like a disc wheel and a carbon front. However, of course, for an entry level perspective, it's kind of an upgrade that you can look at in the future. So $4,000 basically for the Giant Trinity. I think that's a really good value bike that's going to really not limit your performance in any capacity compared to some of the higher or more expensive bikes there are out there. You're going to look for some sunglasses. So these you can pick up off Wiggle. These are $112. Of course, you can get sunglasses way cheaper than this, but these are some brand new high quality sunglasses. The Shimano Triathlon shoes, $167. And for an aero helmet, which I think is a must for anyone looking for high performance, the helmet has a lot of drag. An aero helmet compared to a normal standard helmet can yield you some significant gains in terms of aerodynamics. So the Laser Tar Diz 2, the 2021 model, $160. So all in all, full bike setup, what's that going to be? Less than $4,000, $4,500 basically. And this is where you're going to spend the most of your money, of course, for triathlon on the bike, because the bike itself is so expensive. But nonetheless, a very high quality bike setup that's going to allow you to compete with the best out there and really not cost you the bank. In terms of when you look at other quality bikes, like some of the high end Canyons, etc., spending over $10,000 up to $15,000 just on a bike alone. So for the run, you can go with whatever runners, of course, you preference. I'm a fan of the Mizuno Wave Riders because I have a wide foot, and you can get these in the 2E or the wider version. And they are a good, stable training shoe that, of course, you can race in. And I think that one thing to consider here, these are only $144 off Running Warehouse. However, one thing I think that's important to consider here is comfort on the run, rather than looking at the highest or the fastest running shoes there are, which are going to yield you more return for effort in terms of speed. However, can be quite harsher on the body in terms of not absorbing as much shock, etc. But obviously this is highly individual, down to individual preference, and one of those things that you really need to find what works for you here. So, but you can pick up good quality running shoes for under $200. Looking at some of the carbon plated ones, obviously going to cost you a little bit more. But I think that from a Ironman or a long distance perspective, it's not essential, particularly if you're new to the sport. You're also going to look for a run cap. If it's sunny out there, the last thing you want to be doing is getting burnt. So this DHB run cap from Wiggle, only $10. You also want some decent quality running socks, $11 for these DHB running socks. Again, individual preference, but I think get some good quality running socks, because the last thing you want on the run is blistering. And if you're running in crappy socks, you're more prone to blister. So actual running socks for the run, very important for preventing blisters and all the discomfort and performance hindrance that comes with that. And a few essentials that you're gonna likely need for an Ironman race include number one, which is second down here on the list, a race belt. You're going to need a race belt for the run, maybe even for the bike, depending on the race rules and regulations. Pick it up pretty cheap, around $5. You also want to look at some anti-chafing cream or some Shamos butter, as this one is here. Pick it up for around $20, just to prevent chafing on the bike, chafing on the run. Last thing you need is to be getting cut up and having that affect your skin integrity and getting infections, etc., but also just the discomfort and the performance hindrance that can result. Also important to consider is what happens if you're out on the bike, it's your first triathlon, and then you get a puncture. Oh no, we didn't really prepare. So it's always best to sacrifice a little bit of weight on the bike, just to have a saddlebag with an inner tube if you're running inner tubes, and a device like this, which includes the actual trigger, drive inflator, or the actual inflator nozzle, alongside with a CO2 cartridge. Pick that up for around $20. Not too expensive at all. You can get the tire sealants that also inflate with the CO2, or various or different variations of these, of course. But just make sure that you're looking at a puncture repair system, whether you're carrying an inner tube or whether you're looking at tire sealant. Make sure that you have a plan for if you puncture. So all of this can be done pretty cheaply. So that's a wrap, guys. Hope you found that video beneficial. All of this totaled less than $5,000. To be precise, it was $4,949.50. Obviously, it's going to vary. This is Australian dollars as well. You got to convert to your own currency, and you'll obviously get things probably cheaper in the US, more expensive in other countries, depending on where you are. However, less than 5,000 Australian dollars. for a very high performance, fully brand new triathlon setup, you also need to look at things like nutrition, very individual again. You don't want to compromise on those things too. But I think my biggest tips would be to look for brand new stuff if you're new uh, to the sport, because it's just kind of is very important from a safety perspective. And you really don't need to be, whilst it's still, $5,000 Australian is a lot of money, you don't need to absolutely break or destroy the bank and spend 10, 15, $20,000 like a lot of people do. And that's fine. If you have the money to go and spend $20,000 on equipment, perfect, awesome. Each their own, and that's great. But you can definitely do it for under $5,000. And they are just some examples of some of the equipment you can look at purchasing. So leave any questions with where you can find some of this stuff if you're interested, or other tips that you're curious about. But nonetheless, hopefully some of that was beneficial, and just is a good example of how you don't need to absolutely go to town on equipment, and you can do it relatively cheap. The most expensive thing, of course, is going to be the bike. So that's an unfortunate part of triathlon. So take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.